But I do understand now why kids get so anxious about it. I understand now why kids get so anxious about Instagram and all the socials, and they want to use filters to show them looking better. Does that make sense? Now, obviously I'm not using any filter here today. It's radio, even though we're on Super Talk TV. But I understand why you get addicted to all of that. You start living in a virtual world, and when you start to see what reality is, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Big time. Bigly, as Donald Trump used to say. So I feel like I'm in that right at this moment. So it is what it is. If you want to make fun, I guess just go ahead and make fun. That's just the way it is. All right, it is President's Day. Happy President's Day to one and all. And I know each host so far today has asked the question, who do you believe is the better president? Who's your favorite? Who's the worst? And when I hear everybody talking about Barack Obama, I have to tell you something. I didn't like his policies. He was a Democrat. He believed in Democrat things. I believe that he is the one that started to divide this country like we had never seen before, or at least we hadn't seen in our lifetime. But in your lifetime, if you're around my age, can you truly say he was the worst president? And here's why I say this. And I mean this with all due respect. I understand that Jimmy Carter is now going through the last transition of his life. And what a life that man has lived, and a very godly life. And we're going to share a little bit about that a little later on in the program. He was a Sunday school teacher. He founded, or at least certainly led, Habitat for Humanity, and built houses for a lot of people in need. He believed in being a servant leader, if you will. He believed in getting your hands dirty. He believed in helping others who didn't have enough, or were hurting, or were in pain, or in poverty. He believed in all of that. He was the hands and feet of Jesus. So all respect for that, and this wonderful way that he's transitioning from this life into the next. And if you are watching on our little Super Talk TV, you can see me starting to tear up a little bit. But he was not the greatest president. He was not good at all. In fact, I would still contend his calling was not being Mr. President. Of course, that led him to the next phase where he was able to do all the things that he did with Habitat for Humanity and on and on and on. All the things that he's done. Had he not been president, I don't know that he could have done all of those things. But I remember as a little girl having to wait in line to get gas because it was our day to get gas. Gas rationings. Wayne, I know you're in there somewhere in the producer. We've got all these lights. I can't really see you. I don't know how much older you are than I am. Maybe not, maybe by just a month. I don't know. But do you remember those days when you actually have to stand or sit in line with your car, hoping you're not going to run out of gas to wait for your day to fill up the gas?
I'm a little bit older, but I remember my parents and grandparents sitting in line and waiting to get gas.
Yes, waiting to get gas and hoping, please, Jesus, let's not run out of gas. My parents had a big, huge green Thunderbird that they drove, his big old car. And I was a little girl. I had to have been maybe kindergarten, maybe first grade. And I remember sitting in those lines. I really do. Now, I wasn't stressed out about it. My parents were stressed out about it. And you could only get gas on certain days. And I don't know how they did it. It might have been a number in your license plate that coincided with the day that you were able to go get gas. I'm not sure how it all worked. I remember when the hostage crisis was going on. I remember seeing those news stories, but I was a little girl. But I do remember, like, the overall tenor of the country seemed to be gloom. It seemed to be a depressed state, not in depression as in the 20s and 30s, but a depressed morale, I guess you could say, during that time. We didn't go through anything like that during Barack Obama days. We're not going through anything like that, even though Joe Biden is a terrible, terrible, terrible president. We're not going through anything like that right now. No, we're having a hard time paying for eggs. We're having a hard time paying our $3 a gallon gas. $3.50, continues to go up and down and up and down. We're having issues with that. Natural gas this year I don't even want to look to see what my gas bill is. We're having issues paying our bills, or at least getting rid of some of the fun things that we used to do. And now that's contributing to the bottom line of paying for groceries, paying for your electricity, paying for your gas. But we're still at a place where we can buy those things for the most part. Most of you listening today, I don't know that you're in a poverty state. I don't know. You're probably like me. You're doing okay, but you'd rather be able to save some of that money or buy something fun or go on a trip or whatever. So you're able to pay your bills. There are jobs that are available out there. I've seen help wanted signs like crazy. So there are jobs available. You can work if you want to work. I don't know that it's always been that way in this country. So to say Barack Obama is the worst president ever, I don't know that that's true. In my lifetime, I don't think that's true. Now, obviously, that's just an opinion. But that's where I am on that. And we'll take your calls and your texts on that if you want to get in on the conversation. 615-737-9986 is the telephone number. That's also the text number. You can also send me an email. I still have an email address here. It's Pamela@997WTN.com. You can comment on the socials too if you want to, or comment on our Super Talk TV, whatever we're calling it, on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube and all of those things if you want to. You're more than welcome to do that. But it's just an opinion. It's just a fun game. I do, though, later on in the show, want to play for you a speech that in my lifetime, I felt like it was the greatest presidential speech I've ever heard in my lifetime. And there are other amazing speeches by people like JFK and others, but I wasn't alive during that time, so I didn't hear them live. But I remember the emotion of this particular speech. I remember where we were in this country during this particular speech. So later on in the show, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to play some of that back. I want you to hear it because I think maybe we have forgotten a little bit about where we were and what strength is like in this country, what it means to be strong, what it means to be revered here by other countries around the world, what it means to strike fear in our enemies and respect from our enemies, coming from our commander-in-chief, coming from the president of the United States. Instead of a bumbling fool, I said it, a bumbling fool who occupies the Oval Office right now, who doesn't know whether we're shooting down spy balloons, weather balloons, Hobby Lobby balloons, whatever. We've become a bit of a laughing stock in this country with our current commander-in-chief, with our current president. So from that standpoint, he might be the worst we've ever had. At least Jimmy Carter could still have conversations with other heads of state around the world, they would at least pick up the phone when he calls. You know what I'm saying? So, happy President's Day. The president, of course, is in a war area. And I have to wonder if we're trying to pick a fight with China. I'm telling you, it just seems weird that we are approaching this whole situation the way that we are when our military is not as strong as it has been in the past. Why do you want to pick a fight with a nuclear nation? Hello, China. Why do you want to do that? It seems that's what's happening here. So as I lay my head down at night and I say my prayers, I pray to God above that we can get through the next 2 years without picking on or picking a fight with China, without picking a fight with Russia, without taking our nation to war, which I feel like, I hear those drums pounding. Don't you? That's what I feel. So it is 12:17. We'll take a quick break when we come back. Bill is on the line. We've got some others on the line. I'll check some text messages and we will continue on with the program. I do want to talk about the law that is going, or the bill that is making its way through our state legislature regarding transgender children and the misinformation that is being thrown out there about not only this bill, but what our lawmakers are trying to do. We will talk about that coming up. I do want to talk about Jimmy Carter as he goes into this transition from this life to the next. I want to give you the latest on Andy Ogles and some of the things that are being said about him. And why in the world is there a local pastor going after Scoop Nashville? You know about Scoop Nashville, don't you? That publication, if you will, that internet website and social media, do we want to call it? Look, Jason, who runs it, is a friend of mine. Do we want to call it journalism? It's tabloid-ish, but with local issues. Why is a pastor going after him? That's a little silly, in my opinion, but we'll talk about all this coming up. I'm Pamela Furr and for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:22. I am Pamela Furr in for... Just forgot his name. Matt Murphy. There we go. All right, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, you will see the moments when my COVID fog hits, because I'll just have this deer in the headlights look, because I can't think of the word I'm looking for or the name that I'm looking for. No, Matt Murphy, who will be in here at 3 o'clock this afternoon in for Brian Wilson on this President's Day. I hope you get the opportunity to tune in. All right, 737-9986 is the phone number, 615-737-9986. If you would like to share who you believe was the worst president of all time, who the best president was of all time, you're more than welcome to do that. You can do it on the text line, or you can be like Bill. He's calling from Shelbyville. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Going once, Bill, are you there? Hey, Bill. I guess Bill couldn't hold on. He had another call. All right. Thanks anyway, Bill. I appreciate it. So I'm going to play for you this piece on Jimmy Carter, if I can pull it up here. Probably should have had this ready to go before I went back on the air. So he is someone who my parents, my dad voted for him. My dad was a yellow dog Democrat many moons ago, voted for Jimmy Carter, and loved the fact that he was from the South. I'm trying to think of all the other positive things. This was way before my time. I mean, I was just a young girl. But like I said, I remember being in such a state that we were very concerned about putting gas in your car because they didn't have enough gas to go around. It may have been that it was so expensive, but we didn't have it. We would run out of gas. And so at the gas stations, closed, no more gas. We have to wait to get more gas. So I don't know that we have experienced anything like that in our lifetime. I was a little girl. So most of you definitely you are in your 20s and 30s, don't remember that. You weren't here during that time. So I guess I see where Barack Obama being on that list is understandable when you didn't live through some of those really bad times. And when you look back on some of those bad times, you think, or at least I do, well, I guess Barack Obama wasn't all that bad. Now, I look at Joe Biden. If we can just get through these 2 years, he just doesn't do anything, doesn't sign any bad laws, I think we'll be good. Now that we have a split Congress, I think we'll be okay. Please, Jesus. But here's some highlights from Jimmy Carter. I found this piece and I thought it was really excellent about what he has talked about over the years about service and about serving God and others, and the fact that he has lived a wonderful life. I need my computer on there. Wayne, let's try this again. Well, hold on. Let's try it now.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president. Ours is the strongest nation on earth, but sometimes we forget what measures our strength. America is strong when we are for peace instead of belligerence. America is strong when we are the leading defender of human rights. America is strong when we reach out to the suffering.
The fundamental force that unites us is not kinship or place of origin or religious preference. The love of liberty is a common blood that flows in our American veins.
Amen to that.
The bond of our common humanity is stronger than the divisiveness of our fears and prejudices. God gives us a capacity for choice. We can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes, and we must. I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends, and I've had an exciting and adventurous and gratifying existence. Well, the best thing I ever did was marrying Rosalind. That's the pinnacle of my life. So I'm going to live again. After I die, I don't know what form I'll take or anything, but I have confidence that there is a God, that He's all-powerful, that He keeps His promises, and He's promised us life after death.
That, of course, is Jimmy Carter. We do each have a wonderful life. We do each have an opportunity to do something amazing with that life. We can live it in peace, or we can live it in struggle. We can live it in poverty and still be thankful, or we can live it in richness and be bitter. We have a choice in this life. We have a choice to say to our fellow man, I will help you. How can I? We have an opportunity to do that, right? So we can say that Jimmy Carter was not the best president in the world, but as he transitions from this life to the next, I think he is a very good example for all of us to choose strength in liberty, strength in peace, strength in humanity, strength in mankind. I think we can. And all of it comes from God. Freedom, liberty, life, pursuit of happiness. It is 12:30. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:35. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy, who will be in here on, 3 o'clock this afternoon for The Drive with Brian Wilson. Brian is off today. I will be back on Friday, by the way. I think Matt is going to take the day off on Friday. I think he'll actually, for the first time, when he's not doing his show, actually take the day off. Most of the time when he's not doing his show, he's doing Brian's show. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that's happening on Friday. Later on in the program, I had forgotten I had scheduled this, but Todd Starnes, formerly of Fox News, is going to be with me coming up at 2:05 this afternoon. He's based out of Memphis these days, and Memphis has a lot of crap going on, a whole lot of crap going on, a lot of shootings, a lot of death. We know what happened with Tyree Nichols. Gosh, it's been a month or two ago? January the 7th. In fact, I think it was the actual date that beating happened. That horrific situation happened, and those 5 police officers were fired and now facing murder charges. So a lot happening in Memphis. So we're going to get an update from him coming up at 2:05. You won't believe what they're doing there. The district attorney there is actually allowing people who come before the courts and ready to be prosecuted, if they don't have the money for bail, they're not letting that keep them from being set free. So bail set at $2,500. Oh, Judge, I don't have $2,500. That's all right. And just lets them go until their trial. It's very bizarre. So anyway, Todd Starnes is going to talk about that coming up at 2:05 this afternoon from Memphis. All right. So what is happening in our legislature, our state legislature? There are several things that we are certainly keeping our eyes on. For instance, the state wants to shrink our metro government. And as a resident of Davidson County, I kind of like that idea. Quite frankly, I think too many people in metro government have caused a lot of the problems that we have here in Nashville. I had to write a check 3 days ago for my property taxes, and it hurt. It hurt really badly. Thank you, Jesus, that I'm in a position that I can pay it. But I don't like how painful it was when I did. My property taxes keep going up, 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 up in a huge way, and I'm not seeing a lot of benefit for it. Quite frankly, I see horrible spending from our metro government and turning down great ideas to actually make money in this area. So at any rate, it looks like the committees that have this bill that would shrink metro government to, I think it's 20 council members, continues to move forward. And I believe session will resume again tomorrow, and it will continue to move forward. So that's one piece of legislation that we're watching with bated breath. And then the other 2 pieces are on so-called drag shows and the transgender bill that prevents doctors, nurses, etc., from performing surgeries on minor children that would alter their gender, their God-given gender. Now, I have to tell you, I follow some of the liberal social media people, and it is just overwhelming to me the lies that are printed, the true misinformation that's printed about some of the legislation that we have. So I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. First, I'm going to take Larry's call, who's been waiting for a minute. Larry in Clarksville, how you doing, brother? How's it going? Larry,
hello,
are you
younger.
there? Oh.
Yes,
What? Okay.
Can you? Yes, ma'am. Hang on 1 minute. Speaker. All right. How is that any better?
I don't know. We have yet to say 3 words. Keep talking.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. How's it going, Larry?
All right, my much younger sister. This is Larry that donated my treasured autographed Pittsburgh Steelers jerseys to you.
Nice. Yes. For the Bourbon Bash.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, look, I mean, and it was my honor to do so. But, and it is not often it really is very, very rare that I disagree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
I served under Carter and Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think as a person, Jimmy Carter is an amazing man and husband.
Sure.
But, his policies made us weaker. And then Obama, if you remember, gas prices hit darn near $5 a gallon under Obama.
But
Obama declared
we still had
a war.
We still had gas.
Yeah. Well, yes, but he declared a war on coal.
True.
And then Biden has doubled down on that.
True.
And while I did not agree with everything Trump tweeted or how he got his message across, he filled up our emergency reserve.
Sure.
And now Biden has blown all that out just to get Democrats elected.
So how are you disagreeing with me?
Well, because Biden is absolutely the worst president. Well, I mean, he's running a close second with Obama because, Obama gave Iran millions in cash.
Sure.
And they signed the Iran nuclear deal. And Biden is so weak. He is such a weak president.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree that he is a weak president, but is he the worst president? Are you able to purchase gas today?
I am, Pamela, but look, the prices are going up. We are purchasing gas from our strategic reserves. Putin never advanced toward anybody while President Trump was in office.
Nor George W. Bush either.
No, don't get me started on him.
See?
And listen,
all right. Well, here's what's so great is that these are just opinions. These are just opinions, and it's okay if you disagree with me. And if I disagree with you, it's all right. It's all good, and we can sit here. Hold on, we can sit here all day and talk about the differences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Isn't it great, though, that we live in a country where we are free to express these opinions?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yep.
May I say one more thing?
One more thing, and then we got to go.
You are still by far the prettiest host WTN has ever had. Matt and Ken and Johnny B are pretty in their own deliberate kind of way.
I was going to say Matt Murphy and Johnny, they're all pretty. Johnny B's been pretty for years.
Kind of way.
Listen at you. All right, I got to go. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate the telephone call. 615-737-9986 is the telephone number. All right, so let's talk about this legislation in the State House about drag shows. It really chaps my big old behind when I see tweets from the Tennessee Holler. Why do I follow this? I don't know why, because sometimes I get so angry at some of the posts that I see coming from this organization, and I have to wonder if he has not found the right way to get the clicks by posting the things that he posts. And I don't even know the gentleman's name. And I'm sure he's a good person and a good father and all of those things. But it really bothers me when I see him say that Tennessee is trying to ban drag shows. And that's all he says. Where Tennessee doesn't want drag shows in its state. And that is just not true. At least that's not what this legislation that's being proposed is about. The legislation is to prevent drag shows that are sexually explicit from being performed in front of children. This is not complicated. Pull up the bill yourself. It's not complicated. And I agree because I've been to drag shows. What? Yes, I have. I've actually judged drag beauty contest before, believe it or not. It can be fun, but I'm an adult. And these weren't sexually explicit shows. They were just, drag queens in heels performing as Cher or Dolly or whatever. Bette Midler, I think, was one. These were the shows that I would go to. These are the ones that I've seen. Are there sexually explicit drag shows out there? Yes, there are. We've seen some of the videos that are quite gross and disgusting, things I would never go to. But if you want to go, knock yourself out if you are an adult. What our legislators don't want, our Republican legislators don't want, our GOPers at the General Assembly, what they don't want is a 5-year-old at a library with a drag show queen. I'm going to be a little graphic here. Well, can I even say that word on the air, on the radio? Holding a plastic replica of male genitalia. Whew, that's difficult. I just wanted to say one word and came up with all those words to describe what I'm talking about. You don't want a 5-year-old at a library with a drag queen holding this object and simulating a sexual act with it. And it has happened. It's happened several times across the country. There's video footage of it. So all our lawmakers are trying to do is to prevent that from happening here. I've seen posts and discussions where there are those that believe the reason why our lawmakers are passing or trying to pass this drag show bill is to prevent pride parades from happening. I think Knoxville has said, the pride folks there in Knoxville have said, if they pass this bill, they're going to cancel their pride show or their pride parade. I'm sorry, do you have to be sexually explicit to have gay pride? Is that a requirement to walk down the streets, our public streets, and be vulgar and sexually explicit? I didn't know that was a requirement. That's what our lawmakers have a problem with. Why? Because that's what their constituents have a problem with. I think, personally, this is my belief, that if you're exposing a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old to these sexually explicit things, that's a form of mental child abuse. I'm sorry, but it is. They're not ready for that. Now, their parents, of course, can determine if they are or aren't. And so if you want to expose them to those kinds of things in your home, that is your choice as a parent in a parental way. But at a drag show, at a public library, that's what you want to do. That's what our lawmakers are trying to prevent from happening. That's what this law is about. It's not to shut down gay pride parades. If you want to walk down the street in a parade, being flamboyant and dancing and whatever, wearing your rainbow colors, holding hands with your same-sex partner, celebrating the fact that you can marry now in the state of Tennessee, have at it. Go for it. It is a free country. Get your permits to do it and go for it. But when you're sexually explicit, that's when we have issues, guys. That's when our lawmakers have problems. And it's not targeted because we hate gay people. That's not true. That's a lie. So when you see that out there or your liberal friends are trying to tell you that, pull up the law and read it to them verbatim so they can understand they're not being targeted. They're just saying be an adult and do it at a private club or in your own home, but not where minors would be exposed to anything sexually explicit. So simple. It's 12:50. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:58. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy. Glad to have you with us today. We're the B crew, and Matt will be in at 3 o'clock for Brian Wilson, and then everybody will be back in their proper places tomorrow. Matt will be back, and then Brian will be back tomorrow, where they're supposed to be. So I'll be with you until 3 o'clock. Coming up at 2:05 this afternoon, we have Todd Starnes, formerly of Fox News, who will join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Memphis and the crazy over there, so stick around for that. Let's go real quick to Billy in Knoxville. Hey, Billy, how's it going?
Oh, doing great, Pamela. Glad to hear you on the radio.
Thank you. You've got about 45 seconds.
Hey, Lord, I'm totally with you. I'm a gay conservative out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and I got 6 great nephews, and no way I would take them to a drag show.
No.
I'm with you. I've judged them, and the songs that they do, the outfits they do.
Yeah, with some of it, yeah. Now, not all of it is explicit. Not all of it is sexually explicit, but there's a lot of it. Yeah.
Yes, there is.
See, and you're a gay man saying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
And married to a drag queen.
Okay, well, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Oh, and he feels the same way.
Yeah.
Absolutely the same way.
Well, thank you for calling, Billy. I appreciate it. From Knoxville, glad that you're listening, glad that you're a conservative, and glad that you're on the same page with us.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 105. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy, who will be in for Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So be listening for that. And I'm sure he's tweeting and all the things on socials so you can keep up with perhaps what he'll be discussing today. I'm going to continue along this line. If you were listening in the last half hour, we were talking about some of the bills that are making their way throughout the state legislature during our session, our General Assembly session this season for 2022. One of them, of course, is shrinking metro government that's making its way. The other, of course, is the drag queen or the drag show bill that's making its way. And there's been some propaganda, I would say, out there from some liberal social media sites trying to tell you. And you know what? I'm going to call out Representative Gloria Johnson and, who's the other guy here in town? He's got three names, and I can't think of his name right now. But at any rate, who are trying to make others believe that Republican lawmakers want to get rid of drag queens altogether in this state, that they want to get rid of all kinds of gay people in this state. By the way, drag doesn't necessarily mean gay. I just want to make sure I put that out there. So I'm trying to make you understand, if you are in the liberal camp listening to this radio show today and TV show, if you're listening, that's not true what you're being told. Go look at the law yourself. It's so funny when I've gotten into discussions on social media with liberals about this issue. When I tell them to look at the law, they say, I don't have to look at the law. I know what it's saying. I know what it's about. When they really don't. And when I give them the link to the show, or I'm sorry, not to the show, when I give them the link to the law, they don't want to see it. They don't click on it. They don't read it. They don't care. They don't want to know the truth. They'd rather be mad at something that's untrue than peaceful over something that's true. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's the upside down. It's ludicrous to me. So let's go to the other bill that's out there. And this is the one that would make it illegal for doctors to perform gender-changing surgeries. Not gender-affirming, gender-changing. That's the way I'm putting it. Gender-changing surgeries on minors in the state of Tennessee. Now, why on earth this is awful is beyond me. I don't know why the liberals are so upset about this. The truth of the matter is, I don't believe there were a ton of these surgeries being performed before. There were some, and there were some that may have been on a list as a minor to possibly have surgery. But I want to read this letter that was posted on a website or on a social media site from a liberal organization who says it's a letter that was sent by a father of a 23-year-old trans son to Tennessee Republican legislators. It goes on to say his family was among those who testified in hearings at the state legislature in an effort to stop, now, see, this is what kills me, the trans youth health care ban, which is, by the way, by definition of all of that, just an out-and-out lie. That is not what the legislation is. So far, it has not slowed the bill, which will be on the House floor this week. But here's the letter. Now, I don't know if there really was a father that testified. Maybe there was. I mean, there would be a recording of it in committee. And I know there are some lawmakers that listen to me on the radio, and they can text me and let me know if this really was true. But I want you to listen to this letter. It's just signed, sincerely, blank, 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 retired U.S. Navy, U.S. Army. Doesn't give me a name or anything in this letter. I would think if they sent this to lawmakers, they would want their name to be public so that they could proudly say, this is what my experience has been with my trans son. But here we go. I am the dad of a transgender 23-year-old son. I'm here to tell you I did not accept my child being transgendered. Well, I mean, that is probably very common. He goes on to say, we fought. My wife and I came close to divorcing over it. But in hindsight, I was wrong. And you passing this law without making exception for hormone blocker and hormone therapy is wrong too. Parents and medical teams, along with their children, must make these decisions. This is a medical condition, not a fad or trend, as I once believed. I don't know why I add T's onto words sometimes, but once believed. Here he goes. My son's brain, now, if this is a trans son, it was actually a daughter, right? Daughter at birth. But anyway, my son's brain, chromosomes or hormones do not match his reproductive system. His life has been extremely difficult with trauma, bullying, and physical and sexual abuse, and constant depression, anxiety, and self-harm and suicide attempts. Now, if this is true, that is awful. I cannot imagine being a young person and being in such turmoil with depression, anxiety. I've had my anxiety issues, but if you're talking about self-harm, suicide attempts, it's plural here in this letter, that's awful. And I'm so sorry if this is true. I'm so sorry that this family has gone through this. But the father goes on to say, once he got on hormone treatment, that all went away. It wasn't until then that I realized this was a necessity for my child to survive. We have worked through our differences, and he gave me the honor of giving him his first name. I struggled with pronouns and just never saw him as a boy until others started recognizing him in public as a boy, people that didn't know him. All right, that's fine. The law has nothing to do with pronouns or whether you want to call your son a boy or a girl. Nothing. When I realized the rest of the world saw our son as he felt inside, I was thankful that he had the ability to live his authentic life. Please don't do what I did. Follow the science. Okay. Now, when this father said that, I throw up my hands in surrender to the silliness. If we're going to follow the science is your son is a girl. If we're going to follow the science, your son is a girl. He goes on to say, don't take away parental rights. All of the medical associations, including World, American Medical, American Pediatric, American Psychological, American Therapy, and American all find these treatments are absolutely appropriate, reversible, and life-saving in some cases. Therapy doesn't always work, nor do antidepressants. Approving this bill in its current form will cost lives. Sincerely, and it doesn't give a name, it just says retired U.S. Navy, U.S. Army. Okay. Look, I am not a parent to a trans child, okay? And I do have some friends that offer therapy to trans children. I have friends who offer therapy to parents who have trans children. There's a lot of confusion here, and I am not any kind of expert on care for your child that is not happy with the way God created them, okay? And I do know as a young teenage girl what it was like to have your hormones all crazy and off balance. We all did. The same with young boys as they were going into puberty and beginning to grow up, the crazy hormonal imbalance they were going through. We all go through it. It's part of life. It's part of living. I do remember not being happy with the way God created me. Quite frankly, I'm not happy with it now. And I got TV cameras on me that's driving me crazy. But I'm not a child. I am an adult that can fix whatever problems that I have, right? And if I want to be a boy, which, by the way, I do not. I like being a girl. I like that God created me a girl. But if I wanted to change that as an adult, I can do that. As an adult, if I want to start taking hormones that change me into a more masculine individual, I can make that decision. When you're talking about minor children, who are begging their parents, right, to do this sort of thing. When you see parents making these decisions based on emotions, not based on science, for crying out loud, I'm actually very thankful that our state legislature is stepping in to make decisions to keep minor children from doing things, and parents even making the decisions with them, doing things that they cannot change. When you have hormonal imbalances, if you want to start putting your kid through all these testosterone treatments, it may not be permanent, but it can certainly have a detrimental effect on your body when you're not supposed to have that much testosterone as a female, and vice versa. If you're talking about estrogen for little boys, you're starting to pump their bodies full of estrogen when their bodies aren't supposed to have that much estrogen because they are boys. It may be reversible, but it can still have long-term detrimental effects on your body. I'm a grown woman, and too much estrogen in my body can cause serious effects, possible cancer. I can go down the list. So if you're pumping it into a little boy's body, simply because he is not happy with the way God created him, and there's some problems and some bullying and all of that, you're still looking at long-term effects. Now, I agree. If you're talking about a young boy or a young girl who's going through suicidal thoughts, that can be a permanent effect if they end up completing suicide. It's a whole different issue. If you're talking about permanently removing male genitalia on a 7-year-old because you think God made a mistake, that's a problem. That may not be going on that much here in this state, but let's keep it from happening at all. And if you can get the kid to 18, and let the kid make the decision on their own as an adult if they want to permanently make the decision to change. But a 7-year-old, 9-year-old? I hate that we're at this place in society that lawmakers have to make these kinds of laws. I would think that common sense would prevail. Follow the science. Science says your trans son is actually a girl. That's what science says. Follow the science, you say. Your trans girl is actually a boy. That's what science says. I think we can find other ways to help your kid if they are struggling with the way that God made them. That's my opinion. It's 1:20. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 1:24. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy. Glad to have you on board. Can you turn that music down just a little bit? Thank you, my friend. 615-737-9986 is the phone number. I didn't mean off. I just meant down just a little bit. Anyway, 615-737-9986 is our phone number. You can also send a text message. If you would like to do so, you are more than welcome to do so. I just received a text regarding the conversation we're having about this legislation that's making its way through the General Assembly regarding trans surgeries, I guess I'm going to say. Now, they being liberals, would have you believe that it is trans health care they're trying to get rid of, and that's just simply not true. It's what they're trying to ban is life-altering, gender-altering surgeries and hormones on minors. That's it. And I don't have the law in front of me to read to you. You can go look it up yourself. But someone just sent a text message that I want to read to you. After I read that letter that a father sent to lawmakers saying that he had been working with doctors to administer hormone therapy to his son, and he's very glad that he did. His daughter at birth, but his son. And this text messenger wanted me to say, please acknowledge that this person's brain was that of a male per doctors. Their reproductive organs didn't match the brain. All right. See, now this is where I would have to talk to doctors. Are your brains male? Are your brains female? I thought it was your reproductive organs that made you male or female. So how is it that your brain doesn't match your genitalia? I mean, I would love to talk to a doctor to tell me, that I have a female brain, not a male brain. I think I just have a brain. And it's the hormones that make the differences, right? In how we handle our emotions. You pump a guy full of estrogen, he's going to be a lot more emotional than a male, right? You pump a female with testosterone, that female is going to be a lot more aggressive than she normally would be. I think I'm right about that. I don't know that it's your brain that is inherently male and female. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong on this. You might be teaching me something new. 615-737-9986. Now, is this Gay Billy back on the line? Gay Billy from Knoxville?
Oh, my God, my head's exploding.
So
oh, my gosh.
What?
No, let them be children. I was bullied. I attempted suicide.
So this is Gay Billy calling me back.
It is me.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm on temporary disability from work, and I have nothing better to do.
All right, you were bullied in school. Did you want to be a female?
No.
But there are, but hold on. But there are those that do. And you know that.
Hey, when I was a child, when I went to my grandmother's house, I put on her pearls, and I put on her clip-on little earrings, and I remember wearing my mama's heels to the house.
Yeah.
That don't make me a female or me want to be a female. That's just me kind of role-playing as a child.
All right.
But these estrogen blockers and hormone blockers, no.
Well,
I mean, look it up. I mean, when does a person's brain fully develop? I've heard it was around 25 years old.
I think mine fully developed last year, Billy. Hey, on that note, I'm going to have to go. I appreciate your phone call. Please don't let your head explode, Billy. Have a good day. I got to go on that note. It is 1:28. Now, we've got news coming up here in just a few minutes. Here's the bottom line again. I feel for the fathers and mothers who have children that are miserable, depressed, going through anxiety. I feel for the fathers and mothers that have children who believe that God made a mistake. Look, I mean, when I was a kid, I felt the same way. I really did, but in a different way. But I think the ratio of pain was the same, was it not? Where you felt less than, where you didn't feel like you added up to enough, where you didn't feel like you were as pretty as that girl, as pretty as that guy, or whatever, as manly as that dude, where you didn't feel like you were enough. I got bullied because I was a redhead, for crying. Redheads have not always been in vogue. I got bullied because I was a redhead. I got bullied because I was a Christian and I went to a Christian school. I bullied people because they weren't Christians, and listened to that satanic rock and roll. I mean, but I never, ever got to that low place. Thank God for that. And there are parents that do, and I get that, and I'm so sorry for that. I wish I had the answers. I don't. But I don't know that changing your minor child's sex is the answer. I don't. And so if it takes our lawmakers changing the law or creating a law to prevent that from happening, I do support that, guys. I really do. I do. I sympathize with your cause, but I do believe that a lot of it with our kids right now, a lot of kids, it's a phase thing. I wish I should have booked her on the line. There is a girl, a friend that I know, that wanted to be a boy so badly when she was a kid, and she thanks God that she didn't have access to these kinds of surgeries back then. All right, it's time for news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 1:36. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy, who will be back in here at 3 o'clock this afternoon. He's filling in for Brian Wilson. So be listening for that. He'll be with you on the drive. We are live on Super Talk TV. And I don't like being on camera. Can I just be honest with you? I've been fighting this all day. I've been nauseous about it. Regardless, nobody cares. So nobody's done anything about it. I got to have the camera on. Say hello to all of you watching on Super Talk TV. Say something nice, but I hate it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't like being on camera. I would have gone into TV if I wanted to be on camera. And there, enough of that. But you can comment, and I am glad you're watching. I mean, this is the wave of the future, as they say, when it comes to broadcasting. You have to be all things. You can't just hide in a studio with your little microphone talking to your producer anymore. It's a whole lot more than that these days. And so, anyway, so here I am. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. When I think it's been about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, in some of my fill-in duties as an employee here at WTN, I kind of brought to your attention my opinion on a local pastor. And I have had conversations now with this local pastor, and I have no issue with him personally. I gave you my opinion then. I'm going to give it to you now. He is the guy out in Lebanon, Pastor Greg Locke, who has, his church has grown in amazing ways, quite frankly, in Mount Juliet in Lebanon. He is the pastor, one of the pastors, during the COVID lockdown who refused to close his church. He said, we're open and we're going to worship the Lord. And he got a lot of press for that. And in my opinion, and I have expressed this opinion on the air and to Greg personally, I think that it is very easy to get caught up in the clicks. And I think it is very easy to get caught up in controversy for controversy's sake. In other words, say something controversial, a news crew will show up at your church, get you on camera, then more people come to church, more tithe in the offering plate, and off you go. And it is really dangerous to become addicted to that kind of media attention. I know this from experience. I grew up around it. Hello, Jim Baker. Hello, Jimmy Swaggart. Hello, Jerry Falwell. All of that. I grew up around all of that. I was in Christian music for years on the Southern gospel side. I grew up around it. So for me, I'm noticing the danger signs. Now, I'm not saying that he's not hearing the call of God. I have no way of knowing that. That's between he and God. I am not saying that the church is a bad place to go. I don't know. I don't go to that church. I've seen some of the sermons. I'm surprised at some of the things that Greg says, but if his parishioners want to go there and listen to him, they have every right to do that. It is a free country, and I stand with Greg Locke on his belief that he can stay open as a church. It is a free country. He has the freedom to practice his religion. What I can't understand for the life of me, and it's not just Greg, it's others who are, what's the word I'm looking for? Who are believers, who are so-called followers of Christ, who get so mad that they go after people. And so I got to tell you, I have a love-hate relationship with Scoop Nashville. Scoop Nashville is a website that started off as a blog, and the man that runs it, I'm sure he's listening right now, has become a friend. But I have a goal. I have a mission. He came after me several years ago in a blog, And we've put all that behind us, haven't we, Jason? But I will say I have a goal, and Jason knows this. My goal is to introduce him to a true relationship with Jesus. And I mean that 100%. I want to show him that not everybody that follows Christ is a nutbag. And there are some of them out there. And I want to show him that not everybody that is conservative is a nutbag. And there are a lot of them out there. And so it bothers me. It looks like Greg Locke is now going after Scoop Nashville because Scoop Nashville reprinted some, I don't know, I guess there's somebody in Wilson County that's publishing Pastor Locke's cell phone number on bathroom walls and telling people to call that number and leave dirty, nasty messages. I mean, how juvenile can you be? But Scoop Nashville didn't place those messages. He's just reporting the story, right? He's just reporting that this is happening. But apparently Greg Locke wants, and said from the pulpit, he's going to go after him, right? He's going to get a call from the lawyer. They're going to show up at his office in a very, menacing kind of bullying kind of tone. And I just want to say, how about let's just show people kindness when we wear the name of Jesus? How about we reach out in love to people who, I think if you would have just picked up the phone and talked to Scoop Nashville, maybe you could have come to some sort of compromise, or please don't publish my cell phone number, or I don't know, just change your cell phone number and ignore the whole thing. But I have a goal. I have been praying for. His name is Jason Steen, and he's listening, and he has a website that is extremely popular in this town. And you know what? He has gotten some scoops on some stories that no one else had in journalism here, because there are young journalists that don't know that you can actually find great stories just from a police. They used to call them blotters, but you go down to the courthouse or you go down to the police station and you look at reports that come in from the night before, and that's some journalistic gold right there. And so Jason has been, through trial and error, has been doing just that. And so the stories you now see on Scoop Nashville and the like are stories that he gets from police stations all across Tennessee, and in Nashville, and in Wilson County, and in Memphis, and in Clarksville, and I can go on and on. He's doing what other journalists won't do anymore. Whether it's a newsroom that's been gutted, and so you don't have enough personnel to do it, or you have journalists that are lazy and won't actually go do it themselves. I don't know, but he has created quite a following. Jason Steen also has some health issues that he's been very public about. He's had a heart transplant, and a couple of times that heart has tried to, what's the word? There's rejection with the heart. And so he has been under medical care for quite some time. Why don't we just pray for Jason? Vice versa, there are Greg Locke haters out there too. For whatever reason, I mean, there's a tent out there in Lebanon that houses thousands and thousands of people. And so the people that live in that neighborhood hate the noise. They hate the band on Saturday. They don't want all that traffic in their neighborhood, and I get it 100%. How about working out a compromise? It's my understanding that Greg Locke and his congregation has put up a new church that's supposed to be more sound deadening. And that's, I guess he's trying to work with the community to make it better in that sense of the word. I am not. I'm Pentecostal, man. I grew up Pentecostal and charismatic and went to a Bible school, the whole 9 yards. He's not. That is not the church for me. there are a lot of people that go there. I wish we would just stop attacking one another. I know, Jesus overturned the tables in the temple, and you're not Jesus. Show a little kindness, show a little love. We just might be able to win people like Jason and others to Jesus. Maybe somewhere along the way, they can find peace before they have a heart attack, or his body wants to reject his heart again. I mean, I don't know. I'm being very, very specific on this particular topic. I'm sorry to call out two specific people, but these are people that we read every day on Scoop Nashville, and he's a pastor that a lot of people are very aware of. I think the two ought to come together and just say, "Hey, brother, please don't post my cell phone number," and Jason will say, "Okay," and then everybody go about their business. But when we start attacking one another, that's not very godly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it sure is a way to garner headlines, isn't it? It sure is a way to get some clicks and some retweets and all of that. That's where I think the danger is. If we're not careful, you get addicted to that. So that's all I wanted to say about that particular situation in Lebanon and with Scoop Nashville. And Jason, I hope you have a good day. And Greg Locke, I'm praying for you and I'm praying for your church. It is 1:48. I'm Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. is 1:55. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. He'll be in here at 3 o'clock. Coming up at 2:05, Todd Starnes of Fox News, formerly of Fox News, and now out of Memphis at KWAM, where his whole headquarters is set up. He's going to join me at 2:05 to talk about what's going on in Memphis and the crazy happening over there. 615-737-9986 is the telephone number if you want to call. You can also use the super text line to send me messages if you want to. I just want to make sure that I am clear here. On Scoop Nashville, if he posted Pastor Locke's private cell phone number in that post, if he doxed him, I think that's bad. That's not good. But I don't believe going after him in anger and hate and that sort of thing is the way to go if we're trying to win people over to God. I just think you can do it in a better way, in a nicer way, all of that. And maybe they are. Maybe they're reaching out today in kindness. Please take it down, or please at least remove the phone number, black it out, whatever the case may be. And, you know, the bottom line is he can change his cell phone number. I mean, that's an easy thing to do if you have to. And he's become such a polarizing figure that maybe he's already done that. I don't know. And there are a lot of people that do not like this pastor. And that's fine. You have a freedom to do that. He has the freedom to preach. It's a free country, all of it. But I'm encouraging people in his church to be kind when you're talking to other people that you want to lead to the Lord. That's my only point in all of this. That's my only point. All right, 737-9986 is the phone number. It is 1:57. When we come back after the news at 2 o'clock, like I said, I've got Todd Starnes who's going to join us. And then I'm going to play, at some point before the show is over, some audio of one of what I believe is one of the greatest speeches of a president in my lifetime. And maybe I can take you back to the emotion of it all when this speech was given. There's a lot of people in this world that listen to news talk that may have not heard the speech because they weren't alive. Maybe have not heard the speech because they are too young, or, they were, I don't know, out of pocket when it was given. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to play a little bit of it on this President's Day by one of my favorite presidents. And you might agree with me and you might disagree with me. We'll find out, won't we, together after the interview with Todd Starnes. Also, I want to mention, if you are a big Leslie Jordan fan, Leslie Jordan is the little guy who's from Chattanooga, who's a comedian and an actor. He was on Will and Grace and some other things. During COVID, at least for me, I certainly felt comfort when I went to Instagram and started following him, and he would just do these little vignettes of being hunkered down. He would call us his fellow hunkered downers. And I loved it. And he did a gospel album recently, all of that before he passed away. And so the Grand Ole Opry tomorrow night is going to do a Leslie Jordan tribute. So if you're a big fan of Leslie Jordan, you might want to consider going to the Grand Ole Opry tomorrow night for one of their Tuesday night shows for that Leslie Jordan tribute. I think it would be a lot of fun. And you know what? If I know anything about Leslie Jordan, he would be overwhelmed that there is some sort of tribute to him. So there you go. All right, more to come. Stick around. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk. Glad to have you on board today. It is 2:05. It is Monday. It is President's Day. And before the show is over, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite presidents and one of my favorite speeches of all time given by a president. So stick around for that. Matt Murphy will be in at 3 o'clock in for Brian Wilson. So stick around for that. Meanwhile, I want to introduce to you my friend, my pal, my buddy, and sometimes boss, Todd Starnes, who's on the line. Hey, Todd Starnes.
Pamela Furr, always great hanging out with you. I wasn't sure about the headbanger music, but it works, you know? Yeah, it wakes you up.
Yeah, well, that is Matt Murphy's theme song, and it does. It does exactly what it needs to. Gets you in the mood. It gets you ready to go after the crazies.
I wanted to break something.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show today. What in the world's going on in Memphis? What in the world is happening? I mean, do you drink the water and then immediately carjack somebody? I mean, what are you... Seriously speaking, though, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Very violent things going on in Memphis.
Yeah, it's a war zone here in Memphis, Tennessee, and just a warning to you good people there in Nashville. This is what happens when you elect progressive radicals to office and you install a George Soros district attorney. Pamela, it's as horrible as you can possibly imagine. And I'll just give you an example. Several hundred cars over the weekend were hit by these thugs, and basically the gangs are using teenagers, kids as young as 10 years old, to go and either carjack or break into cars.
Wow.
And it's so bad that many of the auto repair shops cannot, there's a backlog because they can't get the replacement windows in. But here's what's happening. They made a big arrest over the weekend. They arrested a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old. Pamela, they let one of the guys right out of jail on his own recognizance.
Well, see, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because didn't Memphis, or at least the progressive DA there, decide on bail reform, and now you can actually commit a crime, bail be set, you can't pay it, that's all right, and they let him go.
That's right. So we are now under this bail reform rule that was set forward by our George Soros district attorney, a guy by the name of Steve Mulroy. This guy is bad news, and the crime is horrible here. And a lot of it is just now going unreported because there's just so much.
Right.
Over the weekend, we got some terrible news. About 6 months ago, a very popular chef was gunned down, and then over the weekend, his brother was gunned down in just a few blocks away from where he had died.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we're just dealing with horrifying crime.
Didn't 10 people get shot yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you would think that would be major breaking news here, but this is just another weekend in Memphis. But there was a shooting at a nightclub in Whitehaven, which is a predominantly middle-class black community,
right.
to be honest with you. And 10 people were shot, 2 different locations, and it's just part of the cycle of violence here, and yet nobody wants to really talk about it, Pamela. They were more focused on the Tyree Nichols case. They're saying, as a matter of fact, the executive director of the Shelby County Democratic Party here actually said, we have a problem with police killing black people. No, we have a problem with black people killing black people
right.
in Memphis.
Nobody
wants to talk about that in Memphis.
And I would think that there would be a little bit of trickle down, if you will, because there are those thugs that are in Memphis that also travel to Nashville and commit crimes. So I would think that, if you're letting people out of jail simply because they can't pay their bail, you let them out, they commit more crimes in Memphis, or maybe they head on over to Nashville because they're ripe for the picking because of tourism. I know that's happening. Of course that's happening.
Yes, and the problem with the I-40 corridor, you have significant gang violence and activity in Jackson, Tennessee, which is sort of, it's not the midway point, but, it's close enough to both cities where, that's a problem. And I don't know what it's like there in the Nashville area, but our suburbs are really suffering now. And, the suburbs have had strong, and they do have strong police forces, but the reality is we're having all of this crime literally spilling over the city limits.
Sure.
And now you have people locally talking about, is it possible for us to secede from Shelby County so that we can, establish our own protection and really beef up law enforcement?
Sure.
Here.
Well, and I would think that from a morale standpoint with your police department, now let's take the Tyree Nichols case out of this mix for now, but I would think that your morale with your Memphis Police Department has to be at an all-time low, and I would also think that your recruiting efforts would be at an all-time low, that if you're out there trying to keep the area safe as a member of law enforcement, but yet the DA isn't prosecuting and isn't holding people in jail until their cases because they can't pay for their bail, I would think that morale has got to be very, very low.
Well, it is. This morning on KWAM, the news talk station here, the Memphis Police Association, which is we don't have a union here, but they represent the officers. Mm-hmm. And they said exactly what you just did, that morale is at an all-time low. On February the 2nd, you had a police officer called over to the public library. There was a trespasser there. Mm-hmm. This happened at noon, in the noon hour.
Yeah.
The officer was shot in the head over the weekend. This officer died. And Pamela, do you know that there was a statement put out on social media? There was no press conference. There have been no vigils, no marches in the street. The NAACP hasn't put out a statement. These preachers and the race agitators.
Because he was black. He was a black police officer.
Guy, yes.
Yeah.
But his life doesn't matter here in Memphis, and people are really frustrated. And again, you talk about frustration. There's also anger because the gunman had been arrested since 2017, 32 times.
Seriously?
This guy had been in jail.
Oh my gosh!
And so now we have a dead cop in Memphis as a result of that.
As a result of that. Well, so what do you do? I mean, if you've got this progressive DA, you've got a police chief that is nowhere to be found right now, and you have local lawmakers who are more on the progressive side. What do people of Memphis do? And quite frankly, the surrounding areas there in Memphis do about it. How do you even walk, to your grocery store and feel safe?
Well, here's how bad it is. Kroger especially has been hit hard by the carjackers, and the carjackers are now targeting moms, and especially moms who are traveling to the grocery store with their kids. Mm. And so Kroger has implemented security, so they'll have, if you need help, they'll have a security officer walk you to your Kroger, to your car at Kroger.
Car, yeah.
Here's how bad it is. So a couple of weeks ago, they had a security guard walking a woman to her car. The carjacker smacks the woman around, beats up the security guard, and steals the car.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Yeah, because I'm sure the security guards probably are not carrying weapons. So I'm guessing. So they feel emboldened enough to do that.
Yeah, we've been encouraging people. If you're traveling through Memphis, if you're doing business in Memphis, if you're vacationing, you need to be carrying a firearm or some other device to protect you, whether that's a taser or whatever. I don't know, bear spray. But it is just shockingly violent here. But the reality is our elected leaders don't want they don't want to fix the problem. And we are down 500 officers from our full complement. So the criminals know this, and they're taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of it. And then now with this new program implemented last week, where it doesn't matter if you can pay for your bail or not, they'll set the bail, but if you don't have the money, that's all right. We'll let you go. You just need to appear in court on such and such a date, as if they're actually going to show up.
It's a great point, Pamela. So again, we're dealing with the situation. Okay, so this is now impacting businesses, and do you really? I mean, people are watching what's happening. Memphis has been in the national news for weeks now, and I think folks are thinking twice about whether they're making a vacation plan. Do they really want to risk their life by going to Graceland or Beale Street? These are legitimate questions that people have. And trust me, this is going to it's already started to happen in Nashville. Yeah. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah. And we have a mayor's race that's coming up in August. And so we need to think about that. And we have a state legislature legislature that is trying to dwindle down the size of our city council so we can maybe get some stronger folks on that city council that will do the right thing by our city. I will tell you, I don't know that I ever shared this story with you. I was actually going to, and of course I was going to come to Memphis at Christmas and couldn't, and blah, blah, blah. But I was going to come to Memphis last year. There was a legendary broadcaster that died there in Memphis, and I was going to go to his funeral in my role with the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. And do you know, someone there in Memphis at even another station, the top 40 station there in town, called me and advised me not to. Since it's just, he said, I'm just telling you, Pamela, you would not be safe here if you're coming by yourself. I would advise you not to. And he was being dead serious. He's not a Politico kind of guy at all. He just didn't feel like it would be safe for me. And how sad is that for a city that has so much to history as far as music goes. There's wonderful food there in Memphis. There's lots of things to see. There's the Mississippi River. I mean, you're somebody who's from Memphis. It's got to be sad that if you're telling people it may not be safe if you're here right now, you might want to think, twice about those vacation plans.
You see, you're right. I'm born and raised here, and look, I love Nashville too. Unfortunately, you guys let the Hollywood crowd move in and ruin it, so you're Nash Vegas now. So Memphis is still old school. There's not a lot of pretense out here on this end of the state, and just good people. And that's the problem, is that we're a majority minority city. And by and large, everybody gets along here, and yet you have these race agitators. People were literally, Pamela, people were thinking that the city was going to burn down after this Tyree Nichols case. Right. But that's just not who Memphis is. We never have really been that way.
I mean, it fizzled real fast. It looked as if, I'll say this, when we've had some protests here, with the exception of one situation, most of the time those protests, they may be loud, but they've always been peaceful. There was one year that protesters ended up on the interstate in the middle of winter, and our police chief ended up bringing them hot chocolate as they shut down the interstate, which was kind of a joke. But the point is, it still remained peaceful. That's what happened there in Memphis. Your protesters ended up on I-55, didn't they? But it still remained peaceful.
Yeah, and by the way, this Tyree Nichols case, people need to be watching this. The media may not cover this angle, but there is growing a mountain of evidence that this was really not about bad policing. This was about a love triangle gone bad. And if this is the case, you watch. If they elevate the charges from second to first degree murder, you will know at that point.
That's what it is about.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so, but they're gonna use that to say, well, we got to have police reform.
Yeah. Well, they used that from day one, and you're thinking, and tried to make it sound like it was a racist thing. And even after finding out the cops were also black, they still trying to make it racist. It's just insane.
The police chief's black, a majority of the city council's black, a majority of the police department's black, 58%.
Yeah.
It's just, but it's the white guy's fault. And you're like, wait, what? what happened here?
Logic has gone out the window, Todd. Out the window, I say. Well, what else is going on? How's your show going? Your syndicated show. People can find out more about that at toddstarnes.com, correct?
Yeah, toddstarnes.com. We're on 140 stations around the country, and we just have a good time, 11 to 2 Central Time. And, we just pretty much like you and I back and forth here, we are a caller-driven national radio show, which is a lot of fun. And a couple of the former staffers from Rush Limbaugh's old program are now members of our team. And so we're very excited about that. And we just have a good time. And we would love for folks to check us out. And we have an app, so you can download it and you can listen to us there in the Nashville area.
Excellent. All right, Todd Starnes, thank you so much. Obviously, keep us posted on what's going on in Memphis, because I fear that a lot of what's happening there will start trickling down here. Ooh. And boy, I don't want to see that happen. I still live in Davidson County. I don't want to feel unsafe walking to my car.
I don't blame you one bit.
All right. Thank you, Todd Starnes. We will talk soon. Okay. Bye. It is 2:20. I am Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy. Holy smokes, do we have a problem on the interstate? Apparently, there is an accident. It's an overturned vehicle on 40 eastbound as you're coming from, let's see. Well, it looks like it's happening right there at Old Hickory Boulevard, very, very close to Old Hickory Boulevard on the east side of town. So before you even get to the airport, so if you're coming from Mount Juliet or Lebanon, or right, am I right? That would be west. If you're going toward past the airport and you're going toward Lebanon, Mount Juliet, that area, it's going to be backed up. You've got 3 lanes of traffic that are blocked because of this accident. And I'm looking at the cameras. It doesn't look like traffic is moving to me at all. So it looks like it's at a dead standstill. So you're going to encounter that problem if you have to go to Mount Juliet, or if you have to go to Lebanon this afternoon, or quite frankly, if you have to go to Hermitage, you're going to have to take a back way to get there, because you can't get there from the interstate, at least not right now, unless you want to just sit there and rot in traffic. And who wants to sit there and rot in traffic? So that's what's going on this afternoon. If you're on the east side of town, past the airport at the Old Hickory Boulevard exit there, if you're going toward the Hermitage. So there's your little update. I guess I'm a traffic reporter this afternoon. Don't mind being that at all. We are live up on our Super Talk TV. And apparently you can see every pockmark. You can see every nook and cranny of my face. Oh, my goodness. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's on Twitch. It's on YouTube TV as well. So if you want to see my face and know, by the way, that I'm completely self-conscious about it and really would like to crawl in a hole. But I'm forced to do this so you can see me. At least I'm smiling on all of that. But we are on the radio. So if you want to call in, 615-737-9986. I've been reporting from Memphis for the last couple of months. I do some reports in the morning, and that's what we have been talking about is Memphis and the violence going on. Todd Starnes was not lying when he said hundreds of cars were broken into over the weekend. The weekend before, like if you were just visiting someone at the hospital, at one of the hospitals there in Memphis, your car was no doubt broken into. They hit the hospitals last weekend. I don't know where all of the cars were this particular weekend that were broken into. Don't leave valuables in your car. That would be the moral of that story. What's sad is that even in your upper class, middle class neighborhoods in Memphis are getting hit by carjackers, are getting hit by thugs, are getting hit by just people who are just randomly shooting. And I'm not kidding on that. And that something's got to give. Something's got to be done. Because if this continues, you're going to have more and more police officers leaving the force, and there's going to be more mayhem in the streets. And that is no way to live, and that's certainly no way to leave such a wonderful city like Memphis in such chaos, in my opinion. 737-9986 is the telephone number. Let's go to Mickey in Old Hickory. Hey, Mickey.
How you doing, Pamela?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm on the I'm on 40. I'm on 40 headed towards Nashville. I'm about to get off on Donaldson Pike, but I live at Central Pike and Lebanon Road. You know where that's at?
I know exactly where it is. Yeah.
Right. All right. Yeah. Well, when I got on 40, like I said, I'm headed towards Donaldson Pike.
So
I'm
you're
getting off
good.
now.
Yeah.
But boy, it is stopped.
Yeah.
You hit the. I mean, it's just.
It's not moving.
No, they're not. They're very simply not. Just go ahead and take Lebanon Road, depending on where you're going. Get off at the Donaldson Pike exit if you're on 40.
Yeah.
Because if you don't,
you're going to get stuck.
You're going to get stuck. If you don't get off at Donaldson Pike, you're done.
Yeah, you're going to rot for a minute. And I'm looking, it looks like I don't know if that's a tractor trailer that's overturned or if it's like a delivery van.
Well, I couldn't see it where I got on. You know where I get on. I mean, I think you live in Hermitage too, so you're very, very familiar. So I think it was probably just beyond Old Hickory Boulevard.
Well, I'm looking dead straight at it with a camera, and so it is overturned there. So they do have all but one lane blocked. So it's going to be slow moving. And if by chance anybody had to work today, I'm assuming, did you have to work? Yeah, it's going to take a minute.
No. Fortunately, I had a sleep study and physical therapy from so I had to take the day off, but I'm glad I did because I went from being a musician to driving a dump truck.
Oh yeah.
And it's culture shock for sure. But it's a bad day to be driving, and it's 2:30 right now, so
Yeah.
Yeah, they're slowing down. I just got on Donaldson Pike. I'm crossing over 40, and I'm looking down there. They're slowing up.
Yep. All right.
So it's going to be backed up.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mickey. Have a good day. Be careful as you're driving in traffic. It is 2:29. We've got news coming up next. Is this call ready to go? Let me see if I can get Bobby real quick. Hey, Bobby, are you near that accident?
I just come through it.
Yeah. And?
Yeah, it's a tractor trailer.
Yeah.
Laying on its side up against the concrete divider.
Nice.
And about 75, 100 foot past that is the vehicle it was involved in. It's a minivan, and it's turned around, headed the opposite way, and it's pretty dented up.
Oh, man. I hope there was no injuries. Yeah. All right,
I've been praying for that ever since I come through.
All right, I got to go on that note, Bobby. Thanks a lot for your phone call. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy Show. Matt will be joining you about, 30 minutes from now or so, filling in for Brian Wilson today on this President's Day. Now, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the show. If you weren't able to listen, that's all right. I'm glad you're listening now. In my lifetime, I've only experienced a certain number of presidents, right? And obviously, if I go down the list, I'll end up giving you an idea of how old I am. There's nothing I can do about it, I guess, at this point, so here we go. I believe when I was born, I'm not really sure who was president. Gerald Ford would have been president somewhere in there. And then you have Jimmy Carter. And that is when I start remembering that we have a president of the United States who's the leader of the free world. All of that. I came from a time when the president spoke to the nation, you stopped everything you were doing and you listened to him speak. These days, you're lucky. You're lucky if that happens. Of course, considering who's in the Oval Office right now, I don't blame them. But that's the era I come from. So Jimmy Carter was president when I was a young girl, and the country was not doing that great. We had gas rationings, believe it or not. So I have a vivid memory of sitting in line at a gas station waiting for our turn to get our 5 gallons of gas or whatever it was. And we'd get in the car as a family, head on off to the gas station to get our ration. I actually remember that, which is crazy. I remember the day Reagan was shot. I was in school the day that happened. And so I remember when that happened. So he was president. And then you had George H.W. Bush. You had Bill Clinton. Then you had George W., Obama, and Trump, and now who we have. In my lifetime, I've heard many a presidential speech by a living president. Many a speech, because, again, I'm from the era of you drop everything you're doing and you listen to a president's address to the nation. There was a speech that was given that I found to be one of the best presidential speeches I had ever heard. Now, mind you, it could also be the emotion of the time, because at the time, we had just been attacked by terrorists that took the World Trade Center down, those 2 buildings, that hit the Pentagon and was about to hit the Capitol had it not been for a hero named Todd Beeman. We had a president in place, forget the politics for a minute, I implore you. At that second in time, I believe that the best man for the job was in place. What was our alternative? It would have been Al Gore, guys. So think about that for a minute. And by the way, had Al Gore won this state, he would have been president of the United States. So let's just forget the politics. I know that a lot of people think George W. Bush is a rhino. A lot of people disagreed with his stand on immigration. I believe that the Patriot Act was the worst thing that we could have done, but it was all reactionary to what? 9/11. Several days after 9/11, the president asked if he could address the joint sessions of Congress. He was granted permission, and he gave a speech that I believe at the time was one of the greatest speeches. And I'm going to play a little bit of it for you here on President's Day. Is my computer on? Excellent. This is George W. Bush.
Mr. President pro tempore, members of Congress, and fellow Americans. In the normal course of events, presidents come to this chamber to report on the State of the Union. Tonight, no such report is needed. It has already been delivered by the American people. We have seen it in the courage of passengers who rushed terrorists to save others on the ground. Passengers like an exceptional man named Todd Beamer. And would you please help me welcome his wife, Lisa Beamer, here tonight.
And obviously, everybody stood to their feet.
We have seen the state of our union in the endurance of rescuers working past exhaustion. We've seen the unfurling of flags, the lighting of candles, the giving of blood, the saying of prayers in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. We have seen the decency of a loving and giving people who have made the grief of strangers their own. My fellow citizens, for the last 9 days, the entire world has seen for itself the state of our union, and it is strong. Tonight we are a country awakened to danger and called to defend freedom. Our grief is turned to anger, and anger to resolution. Whether we bring our enemies to justice or bring justice to our enemies, justice will be done.
Standing, by the way, everybody.
I thank the Congress for its leadership at such an important time. All of America was touched on the evening of the tragedy to see Republicans and Democrats join together on the steps of this Capitol, singing God Bless America. And you did more than sing. You acted by delivering $40 billion to rebuild our communities and meet the needs of our military. Speaker Hassert, Minority Leader Gephardt, Majority Leader Daschle, and Senator Lott, I thank you for your friendship, for your leadership, and for your service to our country.
I think about that. He's thanking Republicans and Democrats alike. Don't see that anymore, do you?
And on behalf of the American people, I thank the world for its outpouring of support. America will never forget the sounds of our national anthem playing at Buckingham Palace, on the streets of Paris, and at Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. We will not forget South Korean children gathering to pray outside our embassy in Seoul, or the prayers of sympathy offered at a mosque in Cairo. We will not forget moments of silence and days of mourning in Australia and Africa and Latin America. Nor will we forget the citizens of 80 other nations who died with our own. Dozens of Pakistanis, more than 130 Israelis, more than 250 citizens of India, men and women from El Salvador, Iran, Mexico, and Japan, and hundreds of British citizens. America has no truer friend than Great Britain. Once again, we are joined together in a great cause. So honored the British Prime Minister has crossed an ocean to show his unity with America. Thank you for coming, friend.
Did you see that happening that much anymore, where they're standing with us, with Democrats and Republicans alike in a time of tragedy? Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I mean, one of the things that George W. Bush had to say in his speech is that his hope was that in the months and years ahead, this was 9/11, 2001. Actually, the speech was 9 days later, but 2001. I hope that in the months and years ahead, life will return almost to normal. We'll go back to our lives and routines, and that is good. Even grief recedes with time and grace, but our resolve must not pass. Each of us will remember what happened that day and to whom it happened. Americans. We'll remember the moment the news came, where we were, what we were doing. Some will remember an image of a fire or a story of a rescue. Some will carry memories of a face and a voice gone forever. The course of this conflict is not known, yet its outcome is certain. Freedom and fear, justice and cruelty have always been at war, and we know that God is not neutral between them. He continued that we'll meet violence and patience with justice, or with patient justice, that is, assured of the rightness of our cause and confident of the victories to come. And all that lies before us, may God grant us wisdom, and may he watch over the United States of America. That came from a great president at a great time when our country needed to hear it. Now, a lot happened since that day. We ended up in 2 wars. We ended up in a war that some questioned whether George W. Bush actually wanted to get. Osama bin Laden, that he was within our grasp several times, and the order was given to stand down. There are all kinds of stories like that. I get it. You had a lot of men and women die in battle because of 9/11. And our commander-in-chief sent them to these wars. I get it. There are a lot of people upset about that. But these words that came from George W. Bush for me were comforting. And the anger that I felt when the people perished in those towers and on that plane and at the Pentagon, the anger that I felt turned into strong resolve. And not only did our nation stand together on opposite sides of the fence politically, there was a moment in time when we were not so divided, and it felt good. There was a moment in time when we weren't screaming at each other, but instead standing together, hand in hand, saying, God bless the USA, proud of our country, proud of our flag, proud of our president, and free. Since that time, look what has happened. We've been divided more now than I think we ever have. I've talked to so many people that lived during the 60s. I didn't. Who remember the division we had during that time and the fights sometimes that would take to the streets. And they say that was a time less divided than now. It's hard to fathom. Because I've seen the pictures of water hoses on black men in the streets. In a time in our country when we didn't allow blacks and whites to mingle or dine together or go to school together. That's in our history. We're more divided now than then. That's just crazy to me. I think if we can just remember 2001 after 9/11 and remember that we're all in this together. We're all Americans. We're not skin color. We're Americans. That's what this speech from George W. Bush did for me. And listening to it earlier, I mean, I've got tears. If you're watching on camera, you see me cry like a blubbering idiot, but I can't help it. I loved George W. Bush. To me, in that speech, that was my favorite time, not because of the tragedy that happened, but how we came from the ashes. That terrorism did not defeat us. And we as a people, as Americans, stood together and stood strong. I'd like to have that back, please. It's 2:52. Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, y'all, I have really expired on my time, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Matt Murphy will be up next, and I'll be filling in again on Friday at the same time from noon to 3 as well. You can find me on the socials, Pamela Furr. Have a great rest of your President's Day.
It's 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 67 degrees, cloudy right now in Music City. Lots of traffic around the town right now. We'll get you all updated with that coming up here soon. Weather and traffic coming up next, starting with President Biden's surprise visit to Ukraine. And it's not sitting well with some Republicans on Capitol Hill.